With the worst of the winter now over and an increase in catch reports starting to pop up on social media, it appears certain that spring is here. Many anglers will now start dusting off their gear and heading out for some springtime fishing. However, with water temperatures variable and the weather still somewhat unpredictable, the carp will not feed quite as vigorously as they do in the warmer months. The metabolism of the carp slows down, and as we creep into the winter months, those cold periods may well last through until April. What is a pop-up? As you would imagine from the name, pop-ups are very buoyant baits and can remain suspended just above the lake or river bottom. Most commonly, pop-ups are made from either a very buoyant mix, known as an airball mix, or from a thin layer of regular boilies mix molded around a cork ball and then boiled. Pop-ups are usually round, to mimic loose feed boilies which are often positioned around it. Nowadays some bait companies also produce pillow-shaped, barrel-shaped or even dumbbell-shaped pop-ups to give variety to angler. As with other artificial baits like imitation sweetcorn, maggots and nuts, some tackle companies now produce artificial pop-up boilies made of plastic. Just like regular pop-ups, they can be flavored too. Single hook baits are often enough to lure a bite, especially when cast to areas where the carp are held up. The attractive stimulants and vivid colors can be a trigger as they are still in a relatively docile state. Imagine a single hook bait as a bright beacon. The only way for a carp to investigate what it could potentially be is by sucking it up. At this point, it is too late and the single has done its job. Tailoring these hook baits to ensure they are as potent as possible will no doubt lead to a greater leakage of attractors and feeding stimulants into the water column, which is vital when the carp senses and vision are at their least effective in comparison to the summer months when they have seen pressure and are a great deal more clued up. A common tactic used by anglers to provide their pop-ups with some extra attraction is to add further flavorings to them. This is done by either soaking or glugging hook baits in a flavor solution or by coating them in a flavor spray just before casting out. There are even now liquid products that dissipate off the hook bait in a plume of color and flavor. This plume rises up through the water column, drawing down any carp patrolling in the water layers above. Again, it is worth experimenting with different concentrations and soak times to tweak your pop-ups. In many waters a subtle flavor level will be more effective than a heavily glugged bait. Watch out for the buoyancy of your pop-ups, which may be affected after the bait have absorbed some liquid. This can be compounded by the fact that once a pop-up is out in lake, it will absorb water, therefore negatively affecting its buoyancy. As a result, it is a good idea to test your pop-ups at home to see how they perform when the bait is immersed in water, especially if you intend to leave the pop-ups out overnight or for several hours at a time. There's nothing worse than reeling in and finding out that your pop-ups have lost buoyancy overnight. Just as using a pop-up with an alternative color to the loose feed boilies surrounding can be effective, so can using a different flavor. Consider doing so if the fish aren't biting.